Welcome back, everybody, to the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. I am your host, Hondo Carpenter. Great to be joined by my very dear friend, longtime friend, highly respected journalist, and an incredibly successful attorney in the Atlanta Buckhead area of Georgia, who joins me all the time to talk around the world of the NFL. John, I want to talk about OTAs, about the Raiders for a second, and then I want to go NFL big picture with you. For those of you that don't know, and as our audience continues to grow, John joins me to look at the NFL macroly, meaning from way up high, an eagle eye view, whereas I cover it microly with the Raiders. And as a NFL senior writer, I do cover it macroly more now. But John, let's dig in on the Raiders for a second. Optional team activities, and they are optional. Players don't have to go, but Pete Carroll is unlike anything I've ever seen. He's 73 years old, running around the field. He's helping 300-pound men up off the ground. He's throwing passes. He had more energy on that field than anyone else, not named Max Crosby. And if anything, he has infused this team with confidence, not arrogance, confidence that they're going in the right direction. It's not, oh, we're going to go kick everybody's butt. It's, man, we know we have the ability to go do this. We've got to grow into who they are. Years ago, Ty Willingham went to Notre Dame, and he had a fast start. In the interest of fair disclosure, Ty is a friend of mine, so I'm not just bragging on him because he's my buddy. But and Sports Illustrated came out with him on the cover and said, "Oh, what a difference a leader makes." And you're seeing this with Pete Carroll. There's no delusions that they're going to a Super Bowl. But the reality is, oh, what a difference a leader makes. I'd love your thoughts on that, please.
In short, it's literally what you're hoping to get and what you're paying for when you bring Pete Carroll in. It's literally what you're hoping is some kind of shock, positivity, and confidence to your franchise. And that really is maybe the advantage of bringing him in. When you evaluate the coaches that were available last year, you see where they're going. It's no knock on Ben Johnson, but there's no possible way he could bring that since he's never coached in the NFL. It's not a knock on Mike Vrabel. He's a little bit different and maybe as successful or more than Pete Carroll with what he's doing there going to New England. Obviously, a unique situation because he played there. But when you look at Pete Carroll, you look at that thing and you say, this is still the same guy that was at Southern Cal. When I think he kind of came into his own. It's not the same guy that we saw a million years ago coaching the Patriots, but this is exciting. It's exciting for the fans, exciting for the players. You want guys to want to be at OTAs, and it looks like they're getting something out of it. They're getting some infusion. They're getting some. When the leader loves the game that much, it's likely going to trickle down through guys that maybe need a little boost, and it might help weed out guys that maybe aren't the right fit for a Pete Carroll team because they can't get with it. They can't get down with all the rah-rah. Some people say, oh, it's all rah-rah. A lot of people dig it. More people in that sport dig it than don't. It's not a college coach coming. Obviously, the NFL record has been underrated and understated because he was all the way out in Seattle, but people in Raider Nation know. They know what Pete Carroll has done and what he can do. You can't win anything in the OTAs, but this is exactly the kind of start that you would want. And as much of an energy change as there was in Washington last year with Dan Quinn, since he's been there, this is something that can carry over and propel guys to reach the potential that they have. And there's no way to hide it and no reason to hide it. Of course, everybody wants to win every game in the NFL. And of course, the Raiders are not likely anywhere close to being able to do that this year. But it does feel like they are going to be more likely to reach their potential as a team than they have in a number of years. And it's because of the guy leading the ship and because of the energy he's still got. He's got a lot of energy for a 37-year-old, let alone somebody 73.
John, I want to go back to a personal experience I had with you. So my niece was in the middle of a lawsuit, and it had drug on and drug on and drug on and drug on. and she obviously knew of our relationship. So she switched lawyers and went to you, and within just a snap, you ended it, settled it, and did her right. My point is sometimes it's just a change of leadership that's needed. And you showed your incredible skills because the moment you got involved, then all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, yeah, let's get this settled. And it was just your reputation, your name, your skill set. Okay, great. We're done playing. Let's get it done. First of all, I'm bragging on you as an attorney, which I can do because you're my friend. But second of all, this is a team that everyone said, including me, that knew it. This is not a rebuild. Now they need to retool. They're not a team that's fully loaded. They're not a Super Bowl roster. They're not close to that. They've got some young players who could become that, but this is also not a bad team that needed to be rebuilt. And sometimes just that change in leadership can have a phenomenal effect. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, it can. And again, not everything. A lot of things didn't go the Raiders' way. They didn't go the last leadership's way. We underestimated the value of Josh Jacobs' loss. You got Devontae Adams basically quitting on the team. You got other stuff at play. Absolutely, it can be a massive change. More often than not, ideally, it's for the good. We've seen some that have gone the other way real fast. Where you're like, whoa, I don't know if that coach is going to make it out of the second year. This is the right kind of approach, I think. This is the right guy. This guy absolutely understands the NFL players as well as anybody coaching in the sport, just because he's been around in the NFL for so long as a coach, as a GM, doing nearly everything for a while in Seattle. He's got a year off. He understands and has evaluated, because I remember hearing him talking about the Raiders last fall and early last winter, that it's not a bad team or a bad roster. This isn't a bottom five roster that he came into. This isn't a long-term rebuild. What it is how quickly can we get to measure up inside of our own division, first of all, and then what kind of success can we have? And when we look at that schedule, you see the bookends of the Chiefs. It's almost like there's a different schedule before then, and then you've got the bookend of the Chiefs. Everything they're doing is working towards that, of course, but the excitement for the game matters. When your coach has that level of excitement, when your team leader, Max Crosby, has that level of excitement this early on, this is only something that ideally snowballs in a positive direction. So when you're looking at this sport from around the league, you're looking at the new coaches, you're looking at Pete Carroll. Right now, it's looking like the franchise maybe got exactly the right guy at exactly the right time. We will know more at the end of the calendar year.
Agreed. All right, John, I want to get into some other issues with you about the NFL and around the NFL. Terry Bradshaw had some interesting comments about Aaron Rodgers.
He did.
I'm trying to. I want to say this. So I have a lot of respect for Terry Bradshaw. I think Terry Bradshaw is an extremely underrated quarterback because he's the aw shucks country boy, which isn't an act with him. It is who he is. And I respect him for that. But I have a little bit different perspective on this, and everyone's entitled to an opinion. I have no problem with Terry Bradshaw. He's a Hall of Famer. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. So he's earned the right to have this opinion. I was disappointed in it because I think there's some things going on behind the scenes with Aaron that he's not aware of. So I found a disappointing comment. But I'd love your thoughts on Bradshaw. And again, I've heard people say he should shut up. I disagree. He's earned it's like Tom Brady. Tom Brady's earned the right to say whatever Tom Brady wants when it comes to quarterbacks. I have no problem with it, but I'd love your thoughts on Brady's comments. I mean, on Bradshaw's comments.
Made some noise this week. Bradshaw's on TV covering the NFL every week. I don't think there's any reason he shouldn't be speaking on anything he wants. What
Agreed.
I thought after I heard and read the comments about saying that the situation with Rodgers is a joke, I think there's a bigger picture thing of what he's saying. I think what he's saying is the Steelers have failed at the quarterback position most recently because they failed to protect the quarterback, even maybe when they had the right guy. his speculation that maybe they had the right guy with Kenny Pickett, but they didn't protect him. They didn't give him the weapons. I think that's pointing more towards saying, hey, Steelers, the reason you're struggling is this to start with. Don't worry about the quarterback, and don't go rent a quarterback for a year or two. Don't go rent a quarterback for a year. You've got these other problems that are going to pull you down. That's really the bigger statement of what I took from Terry Bradshaw, was saying there's a bigger issue here. This is not the same Steelers line that you saw in the early 2000s when they were pushing for Super Bowls every year. And in those fantastic games, a couple with the Patriots, but of course with the Ravens, that remains the best rivalry in the sport. So I didn't take the Bradshaw comments as too much a rip on Rodgers as I did a reality check that there's maybe some bigger issues in Pittsburgh, which is interesting because this is the franchise that has done the most to stay competitive, but at a cost of maybe being allowed to really rebuild and all of a sudden end up with a high draft pick, not just in the first round. A lot of people, anybody listen to this gets it. The first couple picks in the second and third round also have a lot of value. So if you're picking in the top 5 in the first round, in the second round, the third round, that actually means a lot. It's not just that first round pick. And since the Steelers have been so competitive and since they've won so much, not a lot, but they've won so much, Tomlin's record, they haven't had a chance to necessarily rebuild. I think what Bradshaw is saying there is, this is a joke to bring this guy in here with kind of a situation around him that's not going to work. Maybe you guys already had somebody that could do it, and now you've let it go. I still wonder, when you talk about the Steelers, I still wonder what's going to happen to Kirk Cousins, when it's going to happen to Kirk Cousins, and if the Steelers are a possible destination for him.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I fully expect Aaron to be playing for the Steelers next year. That is my total expectation. It's not a guess. I still think there is there's a chance he won't, but I don't think it's anything to do with the franchise or with him. I think the angst is outside of the building and Aaron. I think among the Steelers and Aaron, there's pretty cohesive belief of what's going on. Whatever that is, I'm not claiming to know. I think they're fine with it. Outside of it, but if it should happen that Aaron does not play, I think KC1 is the guy, and we're going to talk about him next. He's playing the long game. He's playing chess, and a lot of other folks are playing checkers. I'd love your thoughts on that.
Got to remember, he's got the biggest card in the deck in that no trade clause.
And wait a minute. For everyone wondering, KC1, we've known Kirk a long time. That's Kirk Cousins. Sorry.
It is Kirk Cousins. And it's a little bit of it. It's not so much a dig on Robert Griffin III. It's a dig on the hype train that was around him. You can dig on Robert Griffin III on your own. It's valid. The record is what it is. But it's a nice little nod, KC1. Now, he's got the biggest card in the deck. He's got the no trade clause. So what does that mean? To me, it means sit and wait. He's already been in a bad organization or two. He's clearly been misled by Atlanta pretty severely as far as who was going to be the coach, and look at the situation he's in now. And it is ironic because Michael Penix could go on to have a really great career, but at the same time, he is more closely one play to being retired than just about anybody his age because of a long injury history. So this whole thing could be moot really quickly. But what I would like to see if I were him is wait. You're at the biggest intersection of your career that's left. You've got that sign on the other side of the road saying, wait, don't walk yet. Yeah. That's what he ought to do, because you've got teams like the Steelers. You've got somebody else out there who may be a competitive team who's going to have an injury. It looks to me like Kirk Cousins is going to stay in Atlanta until the opportunity presents itself that he wants to explore, and he will then explore it. But he will absolutely not be a distraction to anything going on with the Falcons. He will continue to be about as good a teammate as there is. There's a really long list of reasons that guys not only hang around, but thrive in the league for as long as they do. For this guy to have put up with Mike Zimmer in the situation in Minnesota and survived that as well as he did was something else. Now he's got this what looked like, hey, I'm going to finish my career here in my second hometown that's blown up in front of him. Doesn't appear at the OTAs, which is fine. But when it comes to the mandatory stuff in June, I don't expect any issue from Kirk Cousins at all. I think he's playing that long game, which includes waiting until the first number of weeks in the season to see what's happening. There's a little bit of a risk in everything, but unfortunately, we've got pretty good odds that a starting NFL quarterback or two will be knocked out before middle of October. And if one of those opportunities is really good, that's when I think you're going to see him make that move.
I agree. One other thing with Kirk, and again, we don't do this to be braggadocious, but it's important as a journalist when you have a personal relationship outside that you, for full disclosure, have a great relationship with Kurt and his family. Love him. Kirk's a great guy. And his family. So I tell that because I don't want people to. You may think my coverage of him is skewed because of that. I don't think it is, but I'm just trying to be integrous with our audience. But where I think if I'm pulling myself away and just being an NFL senior writer, which I am, I look at Kirk smart. His agents got him a great deal. They protected him. If I'm Arthur Blank, I'm firing my GM saying, okay, if you thought you may go with a younger guy, why did you give him this deal with a no trade clause? Shame on you. Clearly, it may work out for them. I hope it works out with Penix. When he was coming out in the draft, every draft person I spoke to said not worth the first round grade. He's got multiple injuries on both knees. You don't take that risk. It's why the Falcons are the Falcons, but everyone loves Penix. So I hope it works out. But the odds are against it. And when 65% of the first round quarterbacks fail, and that's who don't have all those injuries, it was a bad move. It was a bad place to pick them. It was a bad contract to give to Kurt. I'm stunned we haven't seen a GM fired there yet. It's just fascinating to me how this is all played out. I love your thoughts.
It really is. That draft scene where it looked like Blank was going to fire the GM right off the bat is going to be around forever. It really is. As we set this season up, the Falcons are a fascinating situation. It does look like that more likely than any other GM and coach to get fired. These guys look like they might be the ones gone by December 1st. They've just thrown so much wild card and really questionable decision making to invest that much money into a quarterback and then go pick another one. It's like, hey, all that money you just put in the quarterback, we could have put on the edge. We could have put
purely stupid. Pure stupidity.
Insane. And there's one really important point to make about Cousins, because we won't know the extent of his injuries from last year, I think, until after he's retired. But as Raider fans can understand and relate to, Derek Carr just had to retire because he didn't want to have to go through the surgical rehabilitation process. And there was a time last fall, I think, where that was a concern for Kirk Cousins and into the winter. And fortunately, it sounds like it's not going to be an issue. So one of the first things that the Falcons need to see, because other teams are going to want to see it too, is what does his ball look like coming out here in the summer when they do go back in June? Is he all completely healed and rehabbed? That's going to be an interesting thing to follow. But when you look at the Falcons, it still shocks the league what they did. It still shocks the league. These are such valuable picks. These are valuable dollars. And they put it all in this thing. And to try to sell the idea that we're not going to be drafting that high again, it certainly unique and original, but it's a little bonkers. And they've done a couple other bonkers things. The most popular player on the Falcons is probably Young-Hoo Kim, who is a local kicker from Metro Atlanta. He did have an injury last year. He did have a surgery. They went out and signed a kicker from Germany. And this is just one of those moves. The Falcons have been rightfully criticized for almost being blind to taking some local guys from Georgia or Georgia Tech that might be more popular, like Brock Bowers, because they have trouble filling their stadium. And here they've got the most popular guy on the team. They bring in a kicker from Germany to compete with him. It's just a bad look. And you scratch your head at some of the stuff that's been done there by this regime. And they got to know that they're on the clock. It could work out fantastic for them because they got some talent. They've obviously got a terrific running back. They got some guys that can catch the ball. But if the Falcons go bad quickly, you could be seeing a massive, massive firing spree before all the leaves are even off the trees.
Well, that's why when they made the pick of Penix, I told you, and I even told you who did it. I got a text from a very respected NFL guy who said that's why the Falcons are the Falcons. All right, I want to get to Brock Purdy for a minute. I love the kid. I love his game. He does not try to be who he's not. He was woefully underpaid by NFL standards, never complained, never was a distraction, nothing. Then it comes time for him to get paid, and he gets an offer that by NFL standards he thought was a way undervalued payment. So he rolled the dice on himself. Now, this isn't the Kirk Cousins fan show. Kurt's done this several times. It's worked out for him. Malcolm Kuntz, the Raiders defensive end, did it. I love guys who bet on themselves, who say, listen, I believe in me because I know me better than you. I'm going to work harder than you. I'm going to do more than you. I'm willing to take short-term loss for long-term gain. I love what Purdy did. I think the criticism is outlandishly stupid. And I'd love your thoughts, love your opinion here, but good for him. And I think it was a good move by the organization.
Well, this is really something that, you took Mr. Irrelevant, which almost used to be a knock, but in the big picture, it's really a compliment. And now obviously he's flipped that over forever. He's flipped that over forever. So Brock Purdy comes into the NFL with expectations way down here, way down here. I think what your analysis is matches maybe why he's had so much success. Brock Purdy appears to play within himself. He doesn't appear to try to do too much too often or rarely ever. Trying to do too much at the NFL can get you knocked out and hurt real fast, as we've seen some young quarterbacks do. We've seen Robert Griffin III do, ending his career way early. We've seen it a lot. Purdy doesn't do that, but expectations are down here. The interesting mental thing to look at, I think, starting this year is how does Brock Purdy evolve or change at all when expectations are now way up here? They put the whole franchise on his back. They had to let a lot of guys go who play really well. They think they can make up for it. They think he's so valuable, I believe, with what he does during the week and before the snap. They believe he's off the charts there. Then when you talk about understanding what they want to do, what production they want from the quarterback position with his very fine head coach, Kyle Shanahan, they have laid all their cards out on the table. Now, they have a home Super Bowl potentially again here this year, which I don't imagine adds any extra pressure, but everybody's going to be aware of it. So this is going to be interesting to see. Does this change Brock Purdy at all? I'm pretty sure the 49ers brass is extremely confident it will not change him at all. What I'm not sure of is how does he perform with maybe some less weapons around him? Is there an opportunity that Brock Purdy catches some of that Tom Brady magic where his physical skills and his mental ability to play the quarterback position, they kind of catch together and then everything kind of compounds and explodes? That's what the 49ers are banking on. This is a very, very interesting thing to watch because so many folks have questioned, not necessarily suggesting, but have questioned, what would the 49ers offense look like? What would they look like if they had another quarterback, if they had just one that they drafted and put in? That's a viable question to ask, but this contract ended that discussion. The 49ers are very clearly going the whole way in with Brock Purdy. What I'm interested in is how does his approach, how does his production, how does anything change with the expectation from Mr. Irrelevant, which is not even to make the ball club, to now, can you lead us to a Super Bowl in our home stadium and win it this year? Brock Purdy is going to be real interesting to watch.
So you and I are probably the two biggest fans of Hard Knocks in the world. We love it. And interesting announcement of what team's getting it, and I love it. Your thoughts?
Well, you saw Sean McDermott talk about, I don't know how we're going to get used to those cameras. Sean, relax, man. You're already on the biggest television show in the country. The NFL
Right.
games are the biggest shows there are in the country. You're already in the most popular form of entertainment. Don't worry about those cameras. Very excited to see Hard Knocks. People already love Keon Coleman. They loved him from the second he got up there with, his stories about buying coats and, being from Louisiana and freezing up there in Buffalo. There's other characters on the Bills. It's a franchise
And
going
freezing in East Lansing for the Spartans.
freezing in East Lansing. Like, I got to get out of here and go to Florida State for a year. Exciting to see the Bills. Everybody wants to see really a dynamic quarterback, and they want to see a franchise that is so close. And the question is, did that window close? There's no better way to get a look at it than Hard Knocks. I love it. And of course, the NFC East this year is going to be fantastic as well. You've got such a interesting situation there in the NFC East, and then you have four coaches that have basically been there. Schottenheimer was a coordinator with Dallas, and he's been on Hard Knocks before. So later in the year, we've got that NFC East thing that's going to be fascinating because you've got it's just fascinating from head to toe. It used to be the most powerful division in the sport, but the Bills already have these cameras in, and that's the thing is this stuff's already started. And John McDermott saying, "Hey, I don't know about this." I don't buy it. The interesting hook for Hard Knocks always is who's got the final cut and what do they pull out. We've seen some teams, notably the Cardinals, try to steer the coverage away from some crazy stuff that was going on in real time. And we've seen others like the Giants maybe let in way too much. This is going to be real interesting because the Bills are a franchise, even more so than the 49ers. I think that they must feel like their window is closing and they've got to get a Super Bowl. There can be no higher desire or appetite for a Super Bowl champion in the entire sport than the Buffalo Bills. Folks, we all got to admit that.
Agree. John, last thing I got two things I want to talk to you about, but the next one is there's a team flying under the radar that I am really surprised more people are not talking about in the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's a lot of new there. There's a lot of really young talent. I have been told before that I'm an apologist for Trevor Lawrence. I'm not. They just haven't had good coaching. And I don't care how good of a player you are. Joe Montana is not Joe Montana without Bill Walsh. I love Shad and Tony Khan. I think they're just tremendous ownership team, father, son. I know that Shad's daughter is now taking a very prominent role in the franchise, but I think people are underselling Jacksonville. I don't know if Liam Cohen has the ability to be a head coach, not because he's a bad guy or because he's stupid. It's just because he's never done it. But I love the tree he comes from. I like what they're doing. It was Patrick Graham was almost the head coach there, the Raiders defensive coordinator, and Patrick's brilliant. But I understand why. I mean, they're doing a deal with Patrick, talking with Patrick, and Liam's like, okay, I'll come now. And so they went there because you got a $250 million quarterback. Let's get him an offensive coach to help him. I thought it was the right move, even though I love Patrick and I would hire him tomorrow if I had a franchise. My point is, I think this is a team. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team this year. I'm not saying that, but I think this is a team under the radar. If Liam Cohen is anything, and I think there is a good chance he is, don't know that. I think this is an undervalued team. I'd love your thoughts.
Inherently, they're going to be undervalued because they're literally almost in the smallest market or smallest window as you could have. You can make an argument about Green Bay, but look at it's title town. Green Bay Packers is a worldwide brand. The Jacksonville Jaguars are not. It really is interesting because a lot of us, including me, thought Doug Peterson was going to be a real hit and a fit for Trevor Lawrence. It looked like they were making great progress, that big playoff comeback win, and then it just goes flat on its face. Now what? And this is after the Meyer and then the other issues that they've had there that didn't go well. Interesting reboot because there's so much youth. And they had the guy stealing money from them off the field, just weird stuff going on. Big stadium deal. Now it's like, all right, we're resetting the thing. We're taking that Etch-a-Sketch and we're going like this. New GM, very young, very bold, new coach as well. Travis Hunter, wild card, is in the building. Trevor Lawrence, there's no make or break. Every year is make or break in the NFL. But listen,
right.
Trevor Lawrence looks like he was going to be the next face, the next future face of the NFL. If he is, we got to expect to see that. That has got to start happening sooner than later. I'm with you in that I think the Jaguars, their expectations are going to be very low for this year and probably for next year. Their opportunity to overachieve is pretty high. They've got some talent in there. They've got a dynamic quarterback with a huge advantage in size. I really think his size matters big time. He's plenty big to do quite a bit. Let's see what's going on with this new staff. It's amazing to see such a young GM to begin with, and then to go in there and roll the dice and say, that's the guy I want. It's a big, bold move. You know what I mean? It's a really big, bold move to roll the dice on Hunter and say, we're going to try to do what we can with him both ways. It's a quirky franchise that had some success, backed up, had some success, and then got into a little bit of a tailspin. They're coming out of the tailspin now. It's going to be an interesting team to watch. It will be an overlooked team until they give the world of football a very clear reason to look at them. They are inherently set up to be overlooked because they're in Jacksonville, Florida. Just the dynamics of it, the big picture of it, you should be overlooking them. Let's see what they do. I'm with you. I think this may be a team that surprises and a team that gets to a double-digit win total. When we're sitting here on June 1st, it's like, how did that happen? It happens in the NFL. It just does.
I would be stunned with double digits, but I do expect them to be better. Last thing I want to talk about, Bill Belichick's new book, Art of Winning. I just finished it yesterday on the airplane. So you and I love Belichick, and I think I probably have a little bit of different perspective because of off-field dealings. Let's just leave it there. I respect him immensely. I like him. I think I contrary to popular opinion, I think he's likable. But his book, Art of Winning, as I'm reading it, I kept thinking, I don't think he wrote that. I don't think he wrote that. And then at the end of the book, in his acknowledgement section, he talked about he wrote every word of it. Now, for people that don't know Bill, they'd probably say, so what? He just said it. That's not Bill. Bill doesn't say anything that he doesn't believe. Sometimes he doesn't want to talk. So rather than lie to you, he'll just say, we're moving on to Cincinnati, which I respect that. I may not like it as a journalist, but I respect it as him as a person. I think two things came out of this book that I wanted to discuss with you. Number one, he's talking about playing video games. And that's where I thought, oh, I bet he didn't write that, but he said he did. So, meaning sometimes when he says some of the things he says about InstaFace or whatever is probably more entertainment than reality. But the other thing that came across was he owned everything. He didn't, all of the things people don't like him for, he talked about, other than his relationship with Jordan, which who cares? That's his personal relationship. It's nobody's business. But I thought it was an exceptional book. As somebody that I'm not his friend, but I certainly have a connection there, I thought it really showed who he was. I thought it was a great thing. I'd want to know, I don't think there's any downside with this. I'd love to know, what are your thoughts on Bill writing a book?
The timing is probably perfect. That's the first thing that strikes my mind. You know, the Great Art of Winning or whatever it was called show with Nick Saban is just something that people will watch forever, over and over. Yeah. And so this is a natural spin-off of that. Saban wrote his first book or the first version of it way, way, way earlier. I mean, over 20 years ago. This is the time probably for Belichick to write the book, especially because he's not working in the NFL. Oh, it's got to be endlessly fascinating. This is one of the most successful coaches of all time. How? Why? What are some of the distinctions he made where you may think, hey, I bet you Belichick thought this or they did this, but he's like, no, we did this, and here's why we did it. This is endlessly fascinating. Is it going to be John Wooden's book? I don't think so. There's only one John Wooden's book with the pyramid and triangle. I mean, that's stuff people use in their daily lives today. But there's got to be a lot of gold in Bill Belichick's book. I'm super glad he wrote the book at this time. I'd rather see him write a book before it's too late and go back later and say, hey, maybe I'm going to change a couple things or I think a little differently now. And we're just talking about it, even if it's 5 years later. I'd rather have this book out now than have him wait. There are too many guys that have been really great coaches at the college level, at the pro level, even coordinators that did not write a book. And we don't have the information that plenty of us would be fascinated to hear, to learn from, to apply, even if we're not inside of coaching the world of football. This is the right time for the book. It is classic Belichick in that it's a clunky rollout and it gets overshadowed by off-field and off-camera stuff. Plenty of us can take that and put it over here to the side and say, that's fine. Give me that audio book. I can't wait to listen to it myself. I'm not going to read it. I count it as reading if I'm listening to it. And like so many folks out there, love the audio book. Look forward to it. There's got to be a lot in there. It's a fascinating career, interesting where he started, interesting where he worked, how he worked, who he worked for, and then how he became his own master. This is a master of football. We are interested. We are interested to see what's life like preparing for Richmond. I'm real interested, like you are. Gotta be. How much better of a coach is this guy than all the other guys he's going to go against? Is he going to coach circles around these guys and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, are we going to realize that, oh man, Brent Key at Georgia Tech really is a good football coach. Some of these other guys really are good. Or maybe, wow, the player difference is something that Belichick couldn't overcome that there. He's playing against Miami of Florida. He couldn't coach around the fact that, they may be outstanding physically at the point of attack and just knocking his Tar Heels all over the place. So I love that this book came out when it did. I can't wait to get the information in it. And I wonder if this Carolina experience is going to cause a new wrinkle. And maybe he comes back 5 years later and adds a couple of things. I like that idea. There's too many guys out there who are not putting their book out or getting their book done probably when they should. Perfect timing for Belichick's book. I got a feeling it's going to be a must read in that world of coaching, which, I don't know, maybe there's 100,000 coaches across the country of high enough levels and high enough interest that they'd want to hear what he has to say. My point is, who else would you rather hear from in the whole world of sports relative to writing a coaching book? Not many at all.
No, phenomenal book. What I love is there are things he's like, I just effed up. I screwed up. This was my mistake. And what I really thought was cool was he brought out things that we didn't even know about where he screwed up. And he goes, one big mistake I made, and because we won this Super Bowl game, people don't even know I made this mistake. Then there are times he's like, no, I did nothing wrong. I loved it. It was classic Belichick. He defended himself when he should have, but he blamed himself when he should have. Anyone that knows Bill at all, you can hear his voice in the book. You can tell he wrote it. And it was just, to me, I just thought it was one of the best books a coach has ever written. I think you're going to love it. It was a phenomenal read.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to it. Can I tell you, the one question I would ask Bill Belichick has remained the same for years. It would be the same if we were doing a press conference today. And that would be about the touchdown pass that Plaxico Burress caught to win that Super Bowl. The question would be, did you guys try to call a timeout? Or what happened? You see Plaxico single covered. Was there any thought to call a timeout? Did somebody try to call it? Did somebody screw up and not call it in time? Because you would have thought as that huddle broke, they saw Burress one-on-one. You would have thought that they would have been running timeout. That's the one question I would like to ask Bill Belichick is around that play, why they didn't call a timeout, whether they were trying to or whatever, because, that undefeated team, you could argue, was the best in the history of the NFL, but it's not an argument that's probably ever going to be won because of the way the last game ended.
Agree. Hey, John, tell everyone where to find you on social media, will you?
Still chopping it up at JP Spartan, at X on the experience. These are not the dog days of summer, folks. These are the days when the little seeds are planted for NFL success. We are inside of 100 days, as anybody listening to this knows, and we're looking forward to the new era for the Raiders.
Yeah. Hey, the other day, Shannon and I are in the airport, and a guy walks up and he's like, "Hey, can I get a picture?" We're like, "Sure." Shannon takes the picture. He goes, "Dude, I love your podcast." He's a big Raider fan. I love your podcast. I don't even remember where he's from. I think it was from Florida. But he just goes, I go, "Well, great. What do you like about the podcast?" And he told me, he goes, "But you want to know what I love the most?" I go, "What?" He goes, "Saturdays." He goes, "I love it because you talk Raiders, but then it's all the NFL." He goes, "And I don't even have to worry about the NFL during the week because I know you guys are gonna back me up." So to Fred, who I promised him the next time you were on, we were going to give him a shout out. There you go, Fred. I think it was Fred from Florida. John, I let him know who you are. And so there you go, Fred. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you. John, thanks for joining us, brother.
Always a pleasure. See you soon.